How to start a food truck business in South Carolina, and how much does a truck license cost in South Carolina? In this video from Food Truck Freaks, we're going to get into what it takes to start a food truck business in the state of South Carolina. We're going to get to that right now. All right, so welcome back to Food Truck Freaks. So in order to launch a food truck business, which licenses will you need in the state of South Carolina? Now, in order to sell food legally from a food truck, you will require insurance, of course, in addition to the permits and licenses that we're going to dive into down below in this video. I'm going to get into specifically what you will need and how to get that up and running. Because the names of the licenses can be different, you should check with the business office of your county or even specifically the state to make sure that you have obtained all the necessary documentation. The following list is a list of permits and licenses that are often required for operations of food trucks, regardless of where you live. But in South Carolina, these are the things you're going to need to get up and running. Number one, of course, the business license. So the ability to run a business in the city and state of your choice requires the acquisition of a business license, which also is referred to as a quote-unquote vendor's license or a basic business operating license. The government will acknowledge your company as a legitimate one, so you want to make sure that you've obtained this license specifically before you get started, and they will be able to maintain information on your business for taxation purposes. Now, the cost to obtain a business license for a food truck can normally range anywhere from about $50 up to $500. Now, although the application fees and requirements can differ from city to city when it comes to food trucks, make sure you're aware of the date that your license will expire as well, and take the steps necessary to renew it. Be sure to apply also as soon as you can when you finish developing your food truck business plan, since some cities will restrict the number of licenses for mobile vendors that they actually hand out every year. Now, in some cities, new vendors may even have to enter a lottery, as it's known, to receive a license. So check out the website of the United States Small Business Administration, the SBA website, or the website specifically of the county clerk where you live to learn how to submit an application for a business license when it comes to the lottery. Number two, the number of employer number, EIN. Now, your company must register with the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, in order to obtain a federal tax ID number known as an employer identification number. This is an EIN. Now, which is also sometimes referred to as a social security number kind of for your business. It gives you the ability to establish a credit profile, hire employees, and open a bank account for your business. Now, there are several states that give you this number when they actually give you the company licensing. Obtaining your employer identification number from the IRS is completely free of charge, by the way, and you can do it by applying on the website, or you can do it either via fax, if you still use a fax, or by mail. It may take up to about 4 weeks to process your application for the EIN, so make sure that you give yourself plenty of lead time before getting started. Number three, a valid driver's license. So now, in the same way that you are required to have a valid driver's license and register your vehicle in order to drive your car, when you have a food truck business, of course in South Carolina, you will also be required to have these items in order to operate a food truck. Now, the thing is that the majority of states allow you to get by with just a basic driver's license. When it comes to determining whether or not you need a commercial food truck driver's license, several cities, based on their decision and the dimensions of the trucks and the weight of the vehicle, will determine what type of license you actually need. Now, the price of a food truck driver's license can range anywhere from about $10 up to about $100, depending on the state specifically, in the city and county, and the type of license that you're going to get. Now, get in touch with the Department of Motor Vehicles, this would be the DMV, in your area specifically to find out the steps you need to take to apply for that food truck driver's license, and if you need a special one as well, if there's any requirements necessary for a large food truck. Number four, food handler's permit. Those individuals who successfully complete both a food handler training as well as a food safety course are eligible to receive what's known as a food handler's permit. Now, this document is often referred to as a quote food handler's license or a food manager certificate. The manager on shift, normally within the food truck itself, is the sole person who has to receive the permit in the majority of cities. In several states, it is actually also mandatory for at least one other worker to hold a current permit at all times if the food is going to be handled, cooked, prepared, or even sold through the window of a food truck. Customers will have the peace of mind that comes from knowing that their employees working in the food truck are specifically trained and skilled in sanitary and safe food handling practices thanks to that permit that they get from the course. So, if you have your managers qualified, a health inspector will know for sure that someone on staff has an in-depth knowledge of food safety, which will make their job much easier. Permits for individuals to handle food normally cost less than about $50 and are valid for up to about 5 years. So after that period, you will have to renew them. The majority of cities, if not all of them, demand that city employees or those that are working in food trucks have their food handler certificates and that they display them in a way that is accessible to the general public. You can also take a moment to visit the website of ServSafe to obtain study materials and choose a testing location that is convenient for you. This will allow you to obtain a food handler's permit. Number 5, a permit from the health department. So a permit from the health department, often known as a food service license, is evidence that your vehicle has been approved by the health department within the city that you are starting your business. After undergoing a health inspection, you will get signed off and ready to go. A representative from the health department will conduct an inspection on your truck to look for infractions. After the inspection, they will offer you the general grade for your truck as well as notes on what needs to be fixed, if anything. They make sure that the food is stored properly, that the facility as a whole is clean, and that the clear HACCP plans are in place. The majority of municipalities demand that your health score be posted where it can be seen by your customers. Now, depending on the city, the fee for the permit of the health department might range kind of anywhere from $60, could be up to $1,200. You can make a request for an inspection and schedule a time by calling them or even emailing the local health department in charge of your food trucks. Now, let's get into what licenses and permits for mobile food vendors that are depending on the city, specifically where you will be conducting business. Before beginning business, food truck owners are required to secure specific licenses to the state and the locality in which they must do before they begin operations in such jurisdictions. So in most cases, the necessary permits for food trucks to operate within the authority of a large city are clearly outlined and readily available. On the other hand, if you conduct business in more rural areas, you may discover that the information is more difficult to acquire, so definitely check in those cities in which you want to start. After purchasing a food truck, you may be required to obtain the following permits and licenses in order to legally operate your business. So the permits and licenses you'll need to start with is a seller's permit. Now, in some states, owners of food service businesses are required to obtain a seller's permit before they can buy ingredients and supplies at a wholesale price. And they actually get to avoid paying taxes at the time of purchase. This exemption from paying tax is granted so that the owners can save money. In order to prevent the product from being taxed more than once, the tax would be collected when it is actually sold to individual customers. Now, you want to check the website of the state government in your area to determine whether or not a seller's permit is required in your state and to discover how to apply for one if it is. Number 2, your fire certificates. Yes, so if you operate a food truck, in certain counties and cities, you will also be required to have an inspection, not just by the county's health department, but also by the fire department. In most circumstances, this will only be essential if you have a kitchen equipment with gas lines on your truck. If you simply sell things that are not needed to be kept cold, you probably won't need to have a fire inspection on your food truck. However, you should still check to see if that's relevant for your area. Now, the fire department will want to inspect your cooking equipment to ensure that it is properly set up and functioning as it should. Now, in addition to this, they will want to inspect the electrical wiring in your vehicle and make certain that the fire suppression systems are installed properly. Number 3, now your parking permits. You're going to need your food truck parking permits. In order to determine whether or not your parking permits are required in places where you intend to serve your food, you need to get in touch with the county clerk in the area. On some streets, food trucks are not allowed at any time, and others, they are allowed within certain hours of the day. Now, certain locations that use a food truck is restricted to certain days of the week to ease traffic congestion and ensure that the trucks are spaced out evenly. During normal business hours, the location and the duration of your truck's parking privileges will be specified on the parking permit you purchase. It will also tell you whether or not you are permitted to park your truck on the street overnight or whether or not you are required to keep it in a parked garage when it's not in use. Number 4, your letter of agreement with a commissary kitchen. So before heading out on the road in your food truck for the day, your city, they also mandate that you use a commissary kitchen or commercial kitchen to store your supplies, complete any food preparation work if need be. And if this is the case, You might also be required to have a commissary letter of agreement, which is basically a document that is signed by both you and the owner of the commercial kitchen and confirms your access to their facility as well as the services that you are entitled to use when you are there. Now, in addition to other parameters that were previously agreed upon, the commissary would make a cooking area available to you, now as well as access to clean water, a garbage collection service, and a food storage. Number 5, documentation regarding your standard operating procedures, known as SOPs. So this is sometimes an unusual requirement because this document has to provide an overview of the procedure that you and your personnel follow in order to do the duties on your truck. You will need a detailed step-by-step instructions that basically outline how each dish is prepared, how your equipment should be cleaned and sanitized, and how your vehicle should be locked up before the night in order to operate a food truck successfully. Some food truck owners have a copy of these documents in a training booklet that they keep on hand within the food truck as well. The number 6, special events permits. Now, you may be also needing to get a special event license, also known as a quote vending license, and a permit. It is a temporary permit that actually grants the holder permission to serve food at a specific venue site for the duration of that event. Now, this type of permit is also known as a vending permit. The majority of athletic events, festivals, or even concerts will have an event planner who will be able to provide you with information regarding the types of permits that's required to vend food on the site, as well as the length of time for which those permits must be valid. Now, if you want to use your food truck to provide catering for a wedding, you should inquire with the planner of the venue about the specific permits that are required in order for you to do so. So that wraps it up. If you're looking to start a food truck business in South Carolina, those are a handful of documents, permits, and licenses and inspections. That's pretty good likelihood that you're going to be falling under if you're going to start a food truck business. So if you've already started your food truck business in South Carolina and you have some information to let us know, comment down below. And of course, definitely subscribe. Check out these videos right here to give you even additional information about how to start a food truck business. And I'll see you guys in the next video.